Hey gang, and welcome to another edition of Cards on the Table. I'm John Stolnis, as you well know, and I hope you guys are enjoying this series that I'm doing for you here, because really this is kind of an excuse for me just to open up old baseball cards. And so today, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm opening up 4 packs. 1, 2, 3, 4 packs of 1987 Topps cards. Of course, these are one of the more beautiful card designs from the 1980s. It's got the wood paneling. Everybody knows the wood paneling, right? I mean, 1987 Topps are known everywhere. And the thing about the 87 Topps is they made a ton of them, so they're not really worth all that much. But they're still fun to open, and so on this edition of Cards on the Table, I'm going to open 4 packs of 1987 Topps. Of course, now we're looking for Phillies players, we're looking for Hall of Famers, and we're just looking for some interesting folks to talk about as well, so we can learn more about these guys who played in the 1970s and 80s. Again, this is really when I first started collecting. This is when I first really started following baseball back in the mid-1980s, and so this is always a lot of fun for me. And actually, 1987, the 87 Topps were actually the first baseball cards. Actually, it was the second baseball card set I ever owned. The first, and it still breaks my heart to this day, I had the 1985 Topps set. You know, the one with the Mark McGwire USA card on it, and the Roger Clemens rookie, the insanely valuable Topps set from 1985. I had it and lost it at some point. At some point in around 1986 or whenever, I lost it. And my parents think that somebody swiped it. I think I might have told this story before here on Cards on the Table, but my mother believes that one of my friends, not one of my close friends, but you know how in elementary school you have a friend who you are like really close with for about 2 months, and then you're never friends again? Not that there's a big falling out, but everybody has those friends that you were friends with, and it was like a really intense friendship. It's almost like you've discovered this new person that you want to be friends with, and you're friends for 2 months or 3 months. You sleep over at each other's houses a lot, and you know you're playing with each other every day after school, and then for some reason, maybe the summer comes or something happens, this person, maybe they move away or something like that, and I think that happened to me, and I think there is one kid in particular that I'm thinking about that I think probably swiped it. So that still haunts me to this day. My dream is to get the 1985 Topps set back. I want that 1985 Topps set back in the worst way, and I might have to just go buy it for myself someday. But you know, listen, when I've got 3 boys and a mortgage, and we've got lots of other stuff going on. Dropping $150 or however much it costs on a set of baseball cards probably isn't in the cards, as it were. So in the meantime, we're gonna open up some packs, and we're gonna open up 4 packs of 1987 Topps here. This should be fun. So again, this is just such a great design. This was at just the height of the collecting industry, man. It didn't get any better than the mid to late 1980s when it came to baseball cards. So let's see if we get any Phillies in this mix here. Again, Spring Fever Baseball. Make sure you catch it. So we'll start here with Dennis Powell from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Don't remember him at all. Orlando Mercado. And I miss these old school helmets, the ones with no ear flaps on them. Those are pretty nice, right? I mean, you could actually wear those out in the field. John Olerud used to wear one of those playing first base because I think he had some kind of issue with his like brain aneurysm or something like that, and he had to protect his head when he was out on the field. And so I know that John Olerud wore one of those in the field. Walt Terrell of the Detroit Tigers. Don't remember him at all. This is a sketchy mustache here, Joel Davis. I do love that Sox, though. The Sox hat and the Sox jersey, that's pretty sharp. They need to bring those back. I think this is spring training Sox. But if they sold that Sox hat someplace, I'm guessing it would be a pretty good seller. That's pretty sweet. Here's a guy who will be at the front of many baseball indexes, Paul Ossenmacher. Again, make sure you pronounce his name correctly, Ossenmacher. Here we go. This is one of my all-time favorites. Look at this, Juan Samuel in mid-swing, obviously in spring training here. This is terrific. I think this is the first Juan Samuel that I've pulled. I actually have in my closet one of the 2 jerseys that I own is a powder blue Juan Samuel jersey. Sammy was one of my favorites growing up, and He obviously became one of my favorites when he set the rookie stolen base record. I think it was in, what year was it? 1984, when he stole 72 bases that year. No rookie had ever stolen that many. Now, Vince Coleman would come along a couple years later and blow that mark out of the water. But that 84 rookie season for him had 36 doubles, led the league with 19 triples, 15 homers. He also led the league with 168 strikeouts, but he hit 272 that year with a 442 slugging. In 1986, the year before the year of this card, 36 doubles, 12 triples, 16 homers, 78 RBIs, 42 steals. He had 72, 53, and 42 steals in his career. And then would later go on to become a bench coach. When he was a bench coach, first base coach for the Phillies. Really, I think it's a shame he never got a managerial job. He's a guy that probably should have gotten a managerial job someplace. And I think he filled in at one point or another for various teams, but never got the shot. Never got a shot to be a Major League Baseball manager. And it's probably not happening now because obviously managers want these young guys with analytics who don't have any experience, unless you're the Phillies, and then you just want guys who have won a ton of games before. So Juan Samuel, I was kind of hoping, I think when Ryne Sandberg got fired, that maybe Juan Samuel would get the shot, but he didn't. Instead, we just remember him as an all-time great Philly from the 1980s. I'm psyched we got this. I'm psyched we got a Juan Samuel. That is awesome. We're going to set that aside. You've got Carmen Castillo of the Cleveland Indians. Claudell Washington, the New York Yankees. Here's a sad case. Donnie Moore. Of course, most of you know the story of Donnie Moore, and this happened in the 1986 playoffs. So this card came, this picture was taken shortly after the blow-up in 1986 in the American League Championship Series when he blew a lead for the Angels in that game and essentially cost the Angels a shot. They're 1 out away from going to the World Series, cost them a shot at going to the World Series. And the Red Sox went on to beat them in that series. They went on to lose to the Mets in the 1986 World Series. That classic, obviously, the Mookie Wilson. But Donnie Moore would kill himself a few years later. And a lot of people say it was because of that blown save in the 1986 American League Championship Series. So this was taken after that series. This was taken in spring training of 87, after that 1986 American League Championship Series. Really kind of a sad thing for Donnie Moore there. So yeah, it's a little bit of a bittersweet card. Ray Searage, who's become a very, very good pitching coach, I believe for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I think he's the pitching coach for the Pirates. Anyway, Ray Searage, a very, very good pitcher, a far better pitching coach than he ever was a pitcher, certainly in Major League Baseball. Bobby Witt, this was his rookie card, Bobby Witt's rookie card for the Rangers. Here's old school. This is Tony La Russa looking like a made man back when he was managing the Oakland A's. I mean, tell me this dude doesn't look like he just came out of Goodfellas. Tony Two Bags. I know that's Anthony Rendon's nickname here in Washington, D.C., but this is the original Tony Two Bags right here. I mean, look at that face. He looks like he could put out a hit on somebody. I mean, this is straight up. You see this guy in the back of an Italian restaurant in Philadelphia, you're sitting a few tables over. Just to make sure. Just saying. Here's a World Series hero, Kirk Gibson. Now, this obviously is from prior to the 1988 World Series when Gibson was with the Dodgers. But, of course, Kirk Gibson had his heroics in 1984 with the Detroit Tigers. He was, I believe, the World Series MVP that year. But Kirk Gibson, 1984 for the Tigers, hit .282, had 27 homers that year, 10 triples, 23 doubles, .516 slugging percentage. He had a better year in 1985 for the Tigers, 37 doubles, 29 homers, 97 RBIs, 30 stolen bases that year. Man, he came 1 home run shy of the 30-30 club. I would not have thought that of Kirk Gibson because the image we have of him is hobbling around the bases after that big home run in Game 1 of the 88 World Series. But this guy used to steal a bunch of bags. He had, in the 3 years prior to this card being issued, 27, 29, and 28 stolen bases. Oh, that's home runs. 29, 30, and 34 stolen bases. So he had 28 home runs and 34 stolen bases in 1986. He almost hit the 30-30 club twice. I had no idea he had that kind of athleticism. That's something else. Man, oh man. All right, you've got Atlee Hammaker. Do you guys know Atlee Hammaker once made the 1983 All-Star team? I believe he was the National League starter in 1983 and gave up a grand slam to Fred Lynn in that game. to that point, the only Grand Slam in All-Star Game history. In 1983, with the Giants, he went 10-9 with a league best 2.25 ERA, 8 complete games, 3 shutouts that season for Atlee Hammaker. The following season, in 1984, he only started 6 games. He was injured for most of that season. Made 29 starts in 1985 with a 3.74 ERA, and then missed all of 1986 on the disabled list. I mean, that guy was on his way to being one of the really good pitchers in the National League, and unfortunately, injuries derailed everything. Kirby Puckett All-Star, pretty good. And so this is league leaders in home runs on the back of this card. So you can see the league leaders in home runs in 1986. Jesse Barfield with 40. Dave Kingman. Dave Kingman still hitting bombs in 1986 with 35. Gary Gaetti of the Twins with 34. Jose Canseco of the A's with 33. You can read all the names. Rob Deere of the Brewers with 33, back when the Brewers were in the American League. And there's Kirby Puckett down at the bottom of the list, 31. Hey, look who's down there at the very bottom. Rookie Pete Incaviglia with the Rangers, 30 home runs in 1986. Again, Kirby Puckett there with his All-Star team. We'll put that aside because, I mean, is Kirby in the Hall of Fame? I think he is. You know what? I'm going to have to double check now if Kirby Puckett's in the Hall of Fame. I should know that. I don't think he is, but I should really know that off the top of my head. George Frazier, not the George Frazier, obviously. A very different looking George Frazier. And then, tell me, this guy doesn't look like Cary Elwes as the Dread Pirate Roberts, Keith Atherton, doing his very best as you wish in a Minnesota Twins hat. All right, that's pack number 1 down. Let's open up pack number 2. I hope this is interesting for you guys because this is just an excuse for me to buy baseball cards and open them in front of you and talk about players because this is a ton of fun for me. All right, first one out of the pack is a former Philly, Bo Diaz, and the story of Bo Diaz is tragic if you don't know it. Bo Diaz was killed installing a satellite dish on his roof shortly after his playing career was done. I mean, really just tragic. He was with the Phillies from 1982 through 1985. Hit 18 home runs in 1982 with the Phillies. Hit .288 that year with a .450 slugging percentage in 144 games. That's a dadgum good year for Bo Diaz. That was his best year. The following year in '83, the pennant-winning season with the Phillies, he played in 136 games, hit 15 homers, just a .367 slugging that season, though, with a .236 batting average. Kind of bounced around from that point after. In 1986 was the starting catcher for the Reds, but again, didn't have a great season. .272 batting average, not terrible, but Bo Diaz never was able to match that 1982 season that he had with the Phillies, and of course had the very, very tragic end. I mean, that's always such a senseless, kind of way to die, installing a satellite dish on your roof. It just breaks your heart. Chris Spear, the Chicago Cubs, he had been playing since 1971. This guy had a long career. You can always tell when someone's had a long career when they have to use the 2-point font in order to get all the statistics in on the back of the baseball card. But Chris Spear had a long career. Dave Anderson, the unforgettable Dave Anderson. No idea who he is. Franklin Stubbs of the Dodgers. There's good old Chuck Carey. Doesn't look like he has a care in the world, does he? Just having a catch at Tiger Stadium. Here's Jim Wynn. Good name for a pitcher. Unfortunately, he didn't do much winning. At this point in his career, he had 7 career wins in 40 seasons. 40 seasons, that would be a record. 4 seasons, 96 games as a reliever. Here's an interesting guy, Bob Horner. Bob Horner was a really good power hitter back in the day. He had more than 30 home runs in 3 separate occasions in 1979, 80, and 82. Hit 27 home runs in 1986. Actually, and in one game, and I forget what year it was, hit 4 home runs in a game. One of the few players in baseball history to hit 4 home runs in a game. This dude does not look like an athlete. I mean, this dude looks kind of soft. I'm not going to lie to you. Kind of soft and a little pudgy, and that's all right. He does not look like a baseball player. He looks very Kruckish. Very John Kruckish, except he's very fair. He's got the blonde hair. He's got the white skin. It looks like if he's out in the field for more than a couple hours, he's gonna burn very badly. I don't mean to criticize Bob Horner. I don't know if he's a nice guy or not, but he was a great power hitter back in his day. He teamed up with Dale Murphy to form a pretty potent middle of the order, 2 right-handers back to back. when Dale Murphy was winning a bunch of MVP awards in the mid-'80s as well. Now, we just mentioned Tony La Russa looks like he could put out a hit on somebody. Let's look at our man Lou Piniella here, back in his heyday as manager of the New York Yankees. A much younger Lou Piniella there. Again, looking like he could be a part of a nefarious organization. Randy Bush of the Minnesota Twins. Let's see what else we got here. Orioles leaders. Orioles leaders card. So Don Ace led in games pitched with 66. Again, this was not an impressive showing here by the Orioles in 1986. Here we go. There's your boy, Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt All-Star. And so we just had the Kirby Puckett American League home run leaders. Here we'll go with the National League home run leaders. And of course, there's Mike Schmidt right at the top in 1980 with 37 home runs in 86. Of course, that was the year he won his third National League MVP award. Kind of a surprising MVP award given how late in his career it was, but he had a fantastic season in 19. This was in so these stats. This is from a 1986. So yeah, this would have been his 86th MVP season, and as you can see, led by quite a bit. Glenn Davis and Dave Parker both were far behind him with 31 home runs, and you could just see there were not as many home runs hit back in the day. Just not as many home runs hit. You know, it was a much. Obviously, there wasn't the launch angle, and there wasn't the juice baseball. At least 87 is when we saw a big jump in home runs for that one weird season when they juiced the ball. But Mike Schmidt there, you could see why he was MVP, 37 home runs that season, and wearing a pretty kick-ass jacket. I would pay some good money to get this exact jacket. So we'll set that aside. Good Mike Schmidt card. Here's another Hall of Famer, and I already have like 4 of these. Barry Larkin. Barry Larkin was a really good shortstop. I'm not sure he should have been in the Hall of Fame. He and Craig Biggio don't exactly strike me as Hall of Fame guys, but we'll keep him in there anyway. Here's Jim Acker of the Atlanta Braves. Here's a Philly, and check out this mustache. Dan Schatzeder. Now, I know my friend from the Relief Room, if you follow him on Twitter at all, I'm sure Dan Schatzeder is on the wall of the Relief Room. And if you don't follow him at the Relief Room on Twitter, you really should. It's a great Twitter feed. But Dan Schatzeder was a pretty nameless. Well, he played a lot. He pitched in a lot of games. 328 games over his career from 77 to 86. And Dan's numerous interests include home video. I bet you didn't know that about Dan Schatzeder. Look at that mustache. I mean, food had to get caught in that all the time, right? I mean, that is a bushy mustache. Here's a shot of Dodgers pitching